Hello guys, I am back for another video and today we talk about whether Deku gave up on being a hero. So in the last video, Deku, after being informed by his superiors that they're going to be going to Japan because of a situation, aka that, All for One was wielding some sort of an SCP. And apparently, well, Kitzel, being Izuku's, weapon and also SCP, told them about, the legend, or should I say Kitzel's uncle, known as the underworld god, also known as Kisset. So, after explaining to them about him, well, they basically told Izuku that they're going to be bringing him to Japan so they can try and find All For One and defeat him. So they're going to be, disguising themselves as just, assistants to UA. So, after being told that, Izuku was also told that he's gonna be teaming up with two other SCPs, which were named SCP-166, also known as Teenage Succubus, and wait for a second, SCP-953, also known as Polymorphic Humanoid. So, after Izuku did that, Izuku dreamt of some sort of whatever it is. It looked horrifying, like abnormal, even for Izuku standards. Apparently, his name was Zolgo, and he proclaimed that Zolgo is Izuku's father. Izuku didn't accept this, and when he woke up, it was in a cold sweat. So, after getting all of his things and going into the airport, Polymorphic Humanoid and, well, wait for a second, Teenage Succubus were waiting for him at the airport and coming with him so they can go to Japan. So when they made it there, well, they started running on the airplane all the way to Japan. So, yeah, after being greeted by some locals, because Izuku looks like a foreigner, Izuku left and they started going into a somewhat great, hotel, at least. So, yeah, let's talk about what happens next. So, when Izuku starts unpacking all of his things, Izuku says this. Ugh, this place looks really nice. As Ketzel says this. Yeah, it looks really freaking nice. I mean, back in our home it seems a little bit better, but this this place is actually not that bad. As polymorphic humanoid, or whatever gonna call it. Actually, I need to get a nickname for her. So, I need all of you to comment down below for like a nickname for polymorphic humanoid. And also for teenage succubus, okay? Good. So, polymorphic humanoid says this. It actually feels quite nice than my cell. Ezekiel says this. That's because it's a reason why we decided to make that cell look like that. As she says this. Whatever. As for, teenage succubus, she starts praying. Ezekiel says this. Hmm. I'm guessing you're praying, teenage succubus. As she says this. Oh, yeah. So, after a while, Ezekiel tries to get, dinner. After getting dinner, well, for a second, they started eating. For teenage succubus, she doesn't know how to use chopsticks. So Izuku starts helping her out. She starts blushing a little bit because, it's her first time being touched by a boy. So, yeah. And for, wait for a second. Polymorphic. Actually, I'll just call her Polly for now. You just have to comment down below for like a nickname, okay? Good. Okay. So, Polly starts getting a little bit jealous, but she doesn't know why she's getting jealous. As she says this, hey, what are you doing? You know you can just learn it by yourself. As she says this, as in she says, I mean, well, Teenage Succubus. Wait for a sec. Teenage Succubus says this. Uh, Come on, I don't even know how to use chopsticks. I mean, all my life I've been using spoon and forks. As for, well, Polly, she says this. Because nobody cares. You can just do it by yourself, okay? Aizuki says this. Polymorphic humanoid. If you don't want to listen, I'll shock you with this shock collar again. Got it? Ashi says this. Sorry. So, after they finish eating and also praying because, well, Succubus, aka, well, SCP, no, one, SCP-166, told, well, Izuku to start, well, praying. I meant praying because, well, it's, well, proper to do that. So, after praying, they started going, well, to sleep. Izuku kept watch on, well, polymorphic humanoid, or Polly, because, well, Izuku's still suspicious of her. So Izuku decides to sleep with her in the same bed. The weird part about this is mostly because of, well, Teenage Succubus. Because she's not usually like this. She started getting a little bit of a crush on him ever since he came to, well, to the Foundation. When she first saw him, well, she had like this burning sensation in her, well, chest. You almost thought it was something else. You almost thought it was something else, you dirty-minded dumbasses. Get your mind out of the gutter. Anyway, so, after a night of sleeping, they woke up as Izuku starts getting ready to go to, well, UA to basically, well, introduce himself. So, after getting there to UA, well, he was introduced to Principal Nezu. Principal Nezu says this. So, I'm guessing you're from the Foundation, right? And Izuku says this. Yeah, Mr. Nezu. Also known as SCP-295. As he says this. Hey, don't call me that. And besides, that's not my this is not my name anymore. You can just call me Nezu. Mr. Nezu. Or you can just call me Principal Nezu. Izuku says this. Alright, you, um, whatever the heck you are. You look like a mix of a bear, a mouse, and other miscellaneous creatures. As he says this. Oh, I get that a lot. Alright, I heard that the SCP Foundation is actually investigating this. Izuku says this. Yeah. Wait for a second. Yeah. Yeah, that is why. As he says this. I've been informed by one of the, well, SCP Foundation agents. Izuku says this. Good. So you know about All for One having an SCP? As he says this. Yeah. This is going to be troublesome. Mostly because if that SCP is able to basically manipulate the dead, that means he can make an entire army. Izuku says this. Don't worry. I can easily defeat them with just my SCP. As Izuku brings out Quetzal. As Quetzal says this. Hello. It's been a long time, Nezu. And the reason why they actually know each other that well is because, well, back then, before, well, actually, before when, well, quirks started, well, popping up, back then, Nezu was considered as an SCP, so they brought him to the Foundation. He was a bit mischievous at times, but most of the time, he's pretty much a smart cookie. So, after quirks started appearing, well, they decided to classify him as having a quirk. So, they decided to, well, make him the principal of UA, which is being funded by the Foundation. So, yeah. Other people don't know that it's actually the Foundation that's funding them. Actually, one hero actually knows about the Foundation, and it's the other heroes, they don't know. Only one hero. which is the number one hero known as All Might. So, when All Might arrives, he says this. Ah, you must be the Foundation agent. Mr. Izuku something. I kind of forgotten your name. Izuku says this. Call me Izuku Midoriya. And never call me anything else but that name. Got it? As he says this. Oh, a pretty spunky young boy. Izuku says this. Whatever. I'm just gonna be doing my job. And I don't even care if you die. As he says this. Hey! Why? Izuku says this. Because I hate people with quirks. After all, they did ruin me. As they kind of feel afraid. Mostly All Might, as All Might says this. What do you mean by ruined you? Izuku says this. Anyway, let's hurry up. So, where are all of these students of so-called Class 1A, the so-called troubled class that I've been hearing about in the Foundation staff? As for Nezu, he says this. Well, they're currently in a field trip to the USJ. Izuku says this. Really? Huh. So, is there a smoke or anything? I really need to get something. As he says this. Specifically All Might. Wait, you smoke? You're just a kid. You can't smoke. As Izuku says this. I don't give a flying fuck. I care about my... Wait for a second. I don't give a fuck if I get lung cancer or anything. I just need something to relieve my fucking self. So, All Might was pretty much afraid. Also Nezu, because he rarely sees Izuku pretty mad. So, Izuku was given a pack of pretty cheap cigarettes. So Izuku starts smoking them. Izuku says this. Not bad, but it is cheap. So sorry about that, wait for a sec. So after looking around for a while, Izuku was brought to the cafeteria. Izuku says this. Why the cafeteria? And besides, I'm not really that hungry. As, both of them say this. Well, it's not because you're hungry, it's because, we wanted to, make sure if you're, okay with these types of foods. Izuku says this. Sure. So, after checking out all of the foods, one of them caught his eye. I meant, one of them caught his eye. As Izuku looks, one of the food options is basically like this, almost like fried pork belly. It's called chicharron. Izuku says this. I like this one. As they say this. Really, this chicharron, it's really popular. Mostly because it's pork belly. Izuku says this. Alright. So, let's just look around more. So, after looking around for a few more times, they go back to the principal's office, which Izuku says this. This place is pretty shitty, but it's my type of shit. So, when they're getting ready to shake, or at least the Izuku, when Izuku's about to shake Nezu's hand, somebody bursts through the door. It's a boy with blue hair and blue eyes, wearing glasses and this weird-looking hero costume. As he says this, Principal Nezu, All Might, we're being under attack by villains in the USJ. I was the only one that escaped. As he looks, he sees a boy having a smoke in his mouth, or a cig. As he says this, what are you doing? Why are you smoking? You're basically the same age as us. No, you're smoking. Why? Izuku says this. All right. What the fuck is your problem? You have a stick up your ass? As he says this. How rude! My name is Tenyu Ida. Nice to meet you. What's your name? Izuku says this. No, slow down. What are you? Some sort of like Shattermouth? Anyway, to call me Izuku. As well, the kid says this. My name is Tenyu Ida. So, what? Why are you smoking? Izuku says this. I'm supposed to be your superior, right? So, Izuku blows smoke in his face. Izuku says this. So don't piss me off. As he says this. Duh, God. Anyway, we're under attack by villains, so can you help us, All Might, please? As All Might says this. Sure. How about you, Izuku? This will be fun. So, Izuku brings out his sword. Izuku says this. Can't wait to slice them all apart. As, well, Ida says this. What? Why are you using a sword? Izuku says this. Well, it's a part of my quirk. As both Nezu and All Might say this. Oh yeah, that's his quirk. He beats to have a blade with him to activate it. They kind of laugh awkwardly. So, the other teachers and heroes were informed by, well, by the whole USJ event, so they started going off to the USJ. So, Izuku bashed open the doors and sees all of the villains attacking all of these, well, or at least finding all of the rest of the students. Izuku says this. I'll go first. So, Polly, and you, 18. As for Teenage Succubus, she says this. What is it? Maybe, I'm not really built to fight. Izuki says this. Well, you are built as bait, actually. As she says this. What? So, Izuku uses her as bait for most of the villains that are men. And thankfully, most of the villains are basically men. So, when they saw polymorphic humanoid, they were instantly smitten. For the other heroes, well, because most of them are mostly boys, or at least some of them, Izuku covered their ears and their eyes. So for polymorphic humanoid, she's being chased by some of the villains, mostly of them being boys. So for Polly, she starts creating illusions which cause the girls to basically go insane, even some killing themselves. So when Shigaraki, being the leader of this whole ordeal, sees it, he says this: "Those cheaters, those cheaters, those cheaters! We're supposed to kill All Might." As for Shigaraki, I meant Konagiri. Konagiri says this: how about we bring in the Nomu? You kind of forgot it after all. As he says this: "What a great idea, Konagiri." So, while for the rest of them, most of them were being killed by, Izuku by literally slicing their head off. Um, and for, polymorphic humanoid, or she starts creating illusions to basically turn the rest of, the villains that are not boys insane. Well, Shigaraki summons out the Nomu and instructs them to basically attack Izuku. Izuku says this. Really? That thing is fucking soulless. Well then. Hey. As Izuku does this. Sorry about that, I got the piss. So, Izuku grabs a part of his, arm and tells, Ketsu to bite it, which she starts sucking up the blood. Izuku starts transforming into a demigod form. What do I mean by that? Well, see this. So, Izuku transforms into this half serpent, half humanoid god. As Izuku says this: "Now, die, you pathetic little soulless creature." Izuku brings up his spear, this thing by the way, and his sword, as Izuku throws the spear and slices off the arm of the Nomu. As Shigaraki laughs as he says this, you really actually kill him. It has regeneration, shock absorption, and super strength. You really think that would actually kill it? You are a pathetic little as Izuku brings his sword. As the sword starts, well, the blades of the, well, or at least like the blades that look like an axe head, start moving almost like a chainsaw. As Izuku says this, Torrent Blade, Serpent's Judgment. As it creates a wind, or at least like a freaking typhoon at least, and cuts the Nomu literally into freaking pieces, instantly killing it. As Shigaraki says this, no way, you killed the Nomu? How the hell? What the hell are you? Izuku says this, you can call me the Quetzalcoatl, the god of wind and the storms. As Izuku slices the head of Shigaraki and gets his heart while he puts it up to the sky. Everybody was a bit confused and terrified, except for, well, Polly and, well, Teen. As one of them being, well, wait for a second. Snipe says this. Is this a normal occurrence most of the time when he does that? As, well, wait for a second again. As Polly says this. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he is possessed by a, well, a Mayan god. As, well, Snipe says this. Wait, what? Izuku, I meant, not Izuku, I meant, Polly says it. I didn't mean that. I meant, he's just a bit dramatic. And he absolutely hates villains, so she kind of laughs awkwardly as after Izuku did that, Izuku transforms back into more of his human form, which is basically this. And because of his, well, after like years of like wielding, well, Quetzal, his hair turns a little bit rainbow-ish. His hair fades into like a pink to a orange to a, well, a green. So, after Izuku does that, Izuku says this. That was easy. So, where are the students? As, well, Ida says this. Um, I don't know. Maybe they're. No way. Maybe they're dead. Mizuki says this. Taking bets that they're not gonna die. As the rest of the, well, heroes say this. Are you seriously gambling at a time like this? Ezekiel says this. Anyway, I'll try and find them. So, after some help with the heroes, they find the rest of the students, except for one. Ezekiel says this. Wait, I thought there was like more students. Not like I think we might be missing someone. As well, wait for a second. One of the people in, well, class 180's, well, roster, one of them being a girl with chubby cheeks and brown hair says this. I think we might be missing Bakugo Katsuki, our classmate. As Izuku gets a flood of memories of all the times he bullied him, and realizing that Bakugo's a part of 1A, Izuku says this. Alright, let's just forget about him. He's a useless motherfucker anyway. As the rest of like the students say this. What? Why are we leaving him? I mean, Izuku says this. Who gives a fuck about him? After all, he is a prideful fucking bastard. As they say this. I mean, he is prideful, but he's still our classmate and friend. Izuku says this. Trust me, being friends with that monster is pretty much a judgment. Actually, not a judgment, more like a fucking punishment. As they basically just leapt, like, back as they say this. Seriously, what is your deal with Bakugo? Aizuki says this. Let's just go. So, when they were going back to, well, back to class, well, Izuku was tasked to be, class 1A's, how do I say it, like, assistant teacher, I guess. So, his, superior is Mr. Aizawa. Aizawa says this. Kid. So, I'm guessing you're going to be, my so-called, assistant teacher? As Izuku says this. Yeah, unfortunately. Izuku starts smoking as Aizawa says this. You know that might give you lung cancer, right? Izuku says this. I don't give a fuck anymore. So, after class was, introduced to Izuku, most of the girls were pretty much smitten by his, looks, especially with his hair. His lovely, like, rainbow colored hair. Most of the boys think he's really cool because of his sword. So, after a while, they started going home. So, Izuku was told that they're going to be moving into the dorm rooms because, living in a hotel like that, it would raise suspicion, mostly because, Izuku's living with two girls in a hotel. That would raise instantly, like, suspicions and also rumors. So, after moving into the dorms, Izuku was living, well, well, basically in the girls' dorm because, for reasons. Mostly because of the foundation's, permission. So, Izuku was forced to stay in the girls' dorm, which pisses him off a little bit, but Izuku just ignored it, most of it. So, after getting there, Izuku says this. Alright, Polly and teenage, or teen succubus, whatever the hell I'm gonna call you, don't do anything reckless, okay? Good. So, both of them basically just, well, didn't do anything that's, pretty bad. So, yeah. So, after Izuku prepared dinner, both of them ate it, and both of them, or at least like all of them, started going to sleep in the same bed because, the foundation decided to make, instead of like separate beds for each Izuku, polymorphic humanoid and, teenage succubus, they decided to make it one bed because, they want to, make Izuku find a girlfriend already because, most of the foundation staff are pretty much annoyed of, like, Izuku's, like, how do I say it? Like, depressing type thing. Like, he's completely depressed. Not really that type of depressed, more like oh, I'm fucking depressed, I really need to smoke a lot. The foundation is trying to basically, make Izuku feel like a normal kid again. After all, he did witness and see his mother get killed by an SCP, aka the Shy Guy, if you're wondering. So, after that, Izuku, well, and the rest of, his team goes to sleep. Even though Izuku was pretty much, scared if he, wakes up and comes into the room, they would probably think, this guy's pretty much a fuckboy, basically. So Izuku just, still awake all night because of that thought. So Izuku just stayed up all freaking night. Just only his thoughts to think about. So, yeah, that's what happened. So, yeah, I hope you liked the video. Comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!